Everyone, please join me in welcoming the Settler family men's basketball head coach, Richard Pitino.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Muskie Central podcast, brought to you here by your host, Robbie Brenner. Before we get started, make sure you guys follow my Instagrams, Muskie Central on Twitter and Instagram. And then my Spotify is Muskie Central Podcast, where this will be posted. So let's get into a breakdown of this Musketeers this past week. And yeah, so Xavier, they played on Thursday night. They went in Thursday night's game against Moyne, 1-0 after beating Marist 66-62. And then they come into the Moyne game 1-0, getting their first win of the season on opening night. Xavier, they went on to beat Moyne 74-69 in the Cintas on Thursday night. They pulled this one off with the 3-point shooting. And then, the points off turnovers, which, Xavier, the first game, they weren't hot. I think they hit 7 threes. And then, the second game, they started pouring it on. But 74-69 win over Moyne. Like I said, the 3-pointers were falling. Pitino, before we get into breaking this down, he had stuff to say about the performances so far this season. So here's what Pitino had to say on
I mean, it's the second game they've all won together collectively as a team. Jovan and Phillip won 27 games or whatever last year, but this is such a work in progress. We've had every game, even the exhibition games, have been close. So there's a lot of special situation stuff that we could talk about. But yeah, I think we're going to be hopefully in a lot of close games this year, and our guys are going to learn from all of them.
So yeah, there's Pitino on his thoughts of the game. He said it's a work in progress, and that is so true. Back-to-back games where Xavier first game up by 20, and then they let Marist almost win the ball game, and Xavier only won by 4. Second game, there's plenty of times where I thought Xavier was going to pull away, and they couldn't do that. They couldn't put the hammer down, which then resulted in a 5-point win. But yeah, he said, it's a work in progress. Every game so far that they've played this year have been close. Even the exhibition games, they lost by 5 to Marist. Reports that they lost by 4 to Toledo. They won by 4 and they won by 5. Very close games. And he says hopefully they're in a lot of close games this year, and hopefully it's not blowouts. And that the Musketeers are going to fall and fall in these ball games and use them and learn from them. But yeah, Xavier, like last game, like the first game, they fell behind early. They struggled. They went down by as many as 7. But with their 3-pointers falling, they climbed right back into it. Malik Messina Moore, he had 14 in the first half, and he buried 2 in a row. And Roddy Anderson then added 1 for his first 3 of the season, which again they gave the Xavier Musketeers a 23-22 lead with about 9:30 left in the half. The first half they were 11 for 17 from 3. That's 65%. Malik, he was on it in the first half. He was 4 for 5, and he led all scorers with 14. Xavier went into halftime to 36 with the lead. Moyne, they didn't play bad. They shot 61.5% from the field in the first, and but Xavier forced them with 10 turnovers, which was kind of the difference maker, which then they would have this 15-6 points off a turnover edge at halftime, which was big for Xavier, forcing turnovers, the ball pressure. Xavier led this entire second half, but never fully pulled away. After halftime, Moyne outscored them 33-31. And then with 2:34 left, Moyne cut the lead for Xavier to 67-64. But Roddy Anderson hit back-to-back free throws. Also followed by Anthony Robinson, not Roddy Anderson, sorry. And then followed by drive and finish. Nice little bucket by Roddy Anderson, there it is, to finish and give the Xavier some breathing room to close it out. Messina Moore for the second straight game. He led the Xavier in scoring with 17 to go with 5 assists and only had 1 turnover. Roddy Anderson didn't get the start, and he got 15. Trey Carroll got 11. So yeah, Xavier, first game they had Anderson and Phillip in with Carroll, Robinson, and Malik. Second game they went to All Right instead of Roddy Anderson, and then they went to Jovan Milicevic, who replaced Phillip. And Pitino said he didn't like the way that they came out in the first half, in the first game of the season. So he thought maybe they should switch it around, which they did. And he put the 2 players that came off the bench in the first game that made a big difference with 14 points off the bench. But then Roddy Anderson had 15 points off the bench on Thursday. Phillip had 12 rebounds off the bench. He was a rebounding machine. He played a lot better in the second game than he did in the first game. Lemoyne had a nice player. He had a game high 20 points. He was 6 for 11. That was Trent Mosquera. He was 6 for 11 from 3. But yeah, like Xavier, like I said, there was a couple takeaways. Switching the lineup up. Tino, like I said, All Right in for Anderson, and Milicevic in for Phillip. 3-point shooting was on. And yeah, I mean, Xavier was dialed from the 3-point range in the first half, and that won them the ball game. That won them the game. If they weren't shooting that hot, I feel like I think Xavier would have lost this game. Lemoyne was collapsing a lot on the ball when Xavier would drive, and Roddy Anderson did a great job coming off the bench, driving to the basket, passing it out, finding the open man as Lemoyne's defense collapsed on him. And Xavier stepped in. You know, Xavier's got those shots, and they shot them with confidence. Like I said, Roddy Anderson came off the bench. You know, first game wasn't the best. Second game, he played a lot better. He scored the ball. He did great offensively and defensively. Pitino said pressuring the ball. He looked a lot more confident out there. You know, like I said, driving, having the defense collapse, passing it out, finding the open man. He did a great job doing that. Of the 15 made field goals in the first half, 11 came from behind the arc. 6 different players hit a 3 during the opening 20 minutes, and three of those had multiple threes. Malik Messina Moore went 4 for 5 from shooting. All Right, he was 2 for 2. And then Isaiah Walker came off the bench, hit 2 great threes. He's a here. I'll let Pitino say what he had to say about Isaiah Walker.
Yeah, really good defender. I got to continue to find ways to play him a little bit more because he's an older player. He's a great kid, and he's rock solid at everything. And when he's hitting threes like that, certainly I've got to find more minutes for him.
So yeah, you see Pitino has a lot of respect for Isaiah Walker. He's one of the veterans on this ball club. And he came in off the bench, two for two, from behind the arc. And I mean, if Xavier can get production off the bench like they have the first two games, Xavier, then they could be in a great spot with Mir Panome coming back as well, Pizzato coming back later on in the season, hopefully. Um, but after halftime, Xavier kind of cooled off, going 2 for 8 from deep. Um, but they did a great job attacking the basket. Pitino said that they didn't settle. A lot of people, when you hit as many threes as they did in the first half, that you might settle for you might start settling for some threes. But Xavier didn't do that. They went 2 for 8 from three in the second half after shooting lights out in the first. And here's what Pitino had to say about that shooting and after halftime. Being patient on offense, not settling.
Yeah, I mean, I just said don't fall in love with the three because it almost inevitably happens where you make 11 threes in the first half and then you start jacking up threes. And I thought offensively we did a great job. We had some open looks. Like Phillip was wide open one time, but we did a better job of when we needed to of getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line in the second half. Although Malik missed a couple big ones, but I was proud of that maturity because normally you make 11 threes, you're going to start jacking up threes, and they didn't do that.
So yeah, you see Pitino, he was proud of the squad for not settling for threes in the second half. They cooled off and they've realized that, and they start attacking the basket a lot more, being aggressive downhill. They went 9 for 12 from the free throw line in the second half, which is you need to knock down shots down the stretch to give yourself a chance to win, and Xavier did that. They did last game as well. Like I said, Pitino said don't fall in love with the threes, because he a lot of people do that. You as hot as they were in the first half, and then they went 2 for 8 from deep in the second half. They started to realize, all right, we're not as hot anymore. Let's start getting downhill, getting to the basket. Rowdy Anderson started doing that. Um, like I said, um, they switched the lineups from the first game to the second game. Wright and Milicevic, after they provided a big spark off the bench in the first game, they got the nod in the starting lineup instead of Anderson and Phillip. And then Pitino, he praised Anderson and uh, Phillip for how they for the response that they had for not starting this game. Here's what he had to say about Anderson and
Story of the game, in my opinion, was the response of Roddy and Phillip. I just didn't like the way that we started the game last game. I told those guys it's not a punishment, but they always feel like it is. And they were ready to go. They were great in practice. Phil battled his butt off to get 12 rebounds. Roddy was terrific offensively and defensively. So we're going to get better and better with each game. So as much as you don't like these close ones, we're going to learn and grow from it. And we've got a really, really tough one on Monday. So very appreciative of the fans. It was a terrific environment and a great win.
So he praised how Anderson and Phillip were able to respond to being taken out of the starting lineup, but they responded in a great way with Anderson getting 15 off the bench in 26 minutes, and he did not commit a single turnover. And Barachovin, he grabbed a career high 12 rebounds and 4 assists with 6 points in 25 minutes off the bench. So Xavier's got the production off the bench in back-to-back games. Will they be able to sustain that? Hopefully, that would be ginormous to have some production off the bench with this Musketeers team. But even though they changed the starting lineup, it didn't change how they started off the game. They started off slow again. With 12 minutes left in the first half, Xavier trailed 19-12. after just another kind of questionable and oh no, how's this game gonna go type of start. 19-12 with 12 minutes left. It wasn't pretty again, but Anderson after halftime, Anderson returned back to like the starting group after halftime in the second half. Milicevic went to the bench. And then I think the lineup was Anderson, Wright, Messina Moore, and Trey Carroll and Robinson, I'm pretty sure. Uh, with a more outside type of scoring group out there. Um, but yeah, like Pitino said, he thought the biggest story of the game was being able to, how Philip and Roddy were able to respond to the situation that they were in, and not being able to just put their head down and get all mad. They were able to respond in a great way, and it really helped Xavier, especially Roddy with 15, and then Philip getting 12 rebounds. It was perfect for Xavier. Back to back games where they got terrific bench production that really led them to a win in back to back games. Um, Roddy, he was terrific offensively and defensively, just like Pitino said. Being able to pressure the ball on defense, he got a couple steals. And then on offense, he didn't commit a single turnover, 15 points. He was starting to drive, kick it out. He was great offensively and defensively, and that's the Roddy we want to see all season. And hopefully that starts to get him kick started. Um, um, like I said, the rotation and the starting lineup are still kind of like in the middle. Um, Especially with this whole entire new roster, you know the expectations are low, of course. I mean, everybody, a bunch of new players, a whole new roster besides Roddy and a couple walk-ons. The expectations for Xavier Nation is down here. I mean, a lot of Xavier fans are expecting a bad season. Um, there are plenty of moving parts. There's a plenty of parts that Xavier has this season that could just progress throughout the season as the Musketeers go on into the season. Robinson, he hasn't been he has been nowhere near what people thought he was going to be. So hopefully he can progress. Pitino on his defense, um, even though Xavier forced 10 turnovers in the first half and got a 15-6 point shot turnover edge over Moyne, he didn't like that the Musketeers allowed Moyne to shoot 61.5% from the field at halftime. Here's what Pitino had to say about his defensive performance. Um,
I'm not going to say it here because I get in trouble, but we just were they were too comfortable. They were able to kind of do whatever they wanted, and I thought we really picked up the defensive pressure and intensity in a big way. They put us in a bind with some ball screen stuff. We had to switch it, and we were able to kind of choke down the three a little bit, but then they were blowing by us because it was tough. But it was just some loose ball stuff, messing up on our ball screen coverage where we really got to work on that.
So yeah, you saw what Pitino had to say. He felt like the Moyne offense was way too comfortable. Xavier kind of let them do what they wanted to do on offense. And I'm with Pitino. They looked a little comfortable out there. And then Xavier started to make some adjustments on the ball screen on how they were going to cover the ball screen. Switch. They were starting to switch a lot more often. And he liked the effort that that they gave after that. He said, like he said in that interview in the post game press conference, they started to pick up the intensity, and in a big way. They started to pick up the intensity on defense, pressuring the ball more, kind of getting Moyne out of their game, kind of. Um, you know, like you said, they put him in some blind with the ball screen stuff that they were running, and then Xavier started to switch it, um, and they started to get down on the defensive side and choke down the threes. Um, and then as they started to choke down threes, they started kind of blowing past them and getting downhill. But adjustments, you got to make adjustments. Moyne, they finished with 18 turnovers, and Xavier had 20 points off of those turnovers. So looking at this starting lineup, you look at the center position. Robinson starting, Pape is his backup. Anthony Robinson hasn't been what Xavier Nation kind of envisioned. We felt like he was kind of a steal. I still believe that second game, I'm not overreacting at all. He didn't attempt his first shot until like the 10-minute mark in the second half. He only had 4 points and 4 rebounds and 2 blocks in 27 minutes. Robinson isn't going to be, given the ball, let's post him up. He's not like that. He's very athletic. Let's offensive glass. He crashes the offensive glass. I'll give that to him. He's a great offensive rebound with his athleticism. Some lobs, had one in this ball game. Maybe he needs to generate. He needs to get his own opportunities, and being able to execute off those opportunities. And then Pape, from UNLV transfer, he had a 3 in the ball game. I interviewed him in this offseason. He said that's one of his most underrated things. People don't think he can shoot, but he's a great shooter, he said. And he showed that he had a 3 at the top of the key in the first half that made it 19 to, I think, 15 to 12, I think. But Robinson needs to solidify himself as a primary center. If he doesn't, maybe Pitino could go towards a smaller lineup with Milicevic or Phillip in there at the center position. Who knows? But he used both of them in both games so far, trying to get a feel for it, trying to see what it feels like. Here's what Pitino had to say on the center position, and on Rob.
I think they're both a work in progress. If you think about it, they're both young. Ant hardly played last year. Pop played probably a little bit more. But you can't have, Ant played 27 minutes, only had 4 rebounds. He did a better job of trying to block some shots. But I think even though they didn't fill up the box score, we were getting to the rim a lot. And a lot of that was Anthony, Jovan, Pop, Trey, burying guys on duck-ins and really creating the layups for the guards. So although they didn't jump out on the box score, I thought they did a lot of good things.
So yeah, Pitino's, he's still showing his confidence in both of them. Maybe they didn't pop out in the box score, he said, but they did a lot of great things. Robinson, he's great. He's good on defense, but especially on the pick and roll. On the screening defense, being able to play defense on the screen. He's really good at those. So yeah, win's a win again. You got to take wins as you can get them with the squad. A couple years ago, Sean Miller's second year back here in his second stint at Xavier, they lost to Oakland. They lost to Delaware. You you just got to win these ball games, and Xavier's doing that so far. They got Santa Clara, a talented team that you can't look past. They got Santa Clara coming in on tomorrow night at the Cintas 8:30. So it's definitely going to be it's going to be Xavier's first big time test. They got a couple great players. I think one of them's hurt. I'll look it up right now. But yeah, like I said, you got to be able to play defense tomorrow. They're an athletic group, great coach. They're kind of like Xavier, a bunch of new players, a whole new roster. But yeah, I'm gonna look this up real quick. I know they have a G League player on their squad this year. I could be wrong. I think a couple other players are hurt. Let's look it up. But anyways, Santa Clara's coming into town tomorrow. They're heading to Cintas. They're 2-0. I think they beat. Let's see. Let's look at their roster. Let's see who they beat. I know they're 2-0. But Santa Clara, excuse me, Broncos. So far, they have beat Cal Poly and McNeese State. They beat McNeese State 79-67 on Friday. Looking at the box score on this McNeese game, the best player seems to be Elijah Ma. He's from Toronto, Canada. He's a senior. So Xavier's take care of business. It's at home. So you're going to have that on your side. Xavier Nation should be showing up this week. And then you go for your first real big test to Iowa to play that. New coach Ben McCollum over there at Iowa. You're going on the road. You get that win, maybe you start solidifying yourself if you want to go 2-0 this week. 4-0, maybe start receiving some AP votes. Probably won't, but you never know with how the AP voting is. But you go 2-0 this week, you're going to put yourself in a great spot. And then I'm pretty sure they go to Charleston for the Charleston Classic. And they play Georgia first game. No, they come back home, play Old Dominion on Tuesday, head out to Charleston on Friday, the 21st, to play Georgia at 9 o'clock, and then they will play West Virginia or Clemson, the winner or the loser of one of those. So let's just go 2-0 this week, and let's just keep getting better, better each day. Every win counts. So let's win tomorrow. Let's win Friday. Let's go into next week 4-0. Let's go into Charleston Classic 5-0. Pitino, he'll put this he'll find a way to put Xavier back on the map. A bunch of people are expecting us down here. Don't blame them. Whole new roster. It's hard to win right away, but like I said, let's just keep winning. Win's a win. 74-69. Xavier wins. Let's look at this segment of the day. Play of the game here for Xavier versus Moyne. It is Roddy Anderson with his and one to give Xavier a 9-point lead.
Roddy Anderson. There's Anderson to the bucket, and the foul. He'll go to the line.
So there is the play of the game from the Moyne game. Roddy Anderson, 15 points. That's the play of the game with his and one in the second half to give Xavier a 51-42 lead. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you go follow the Spotify Muskie Central podcast. I will be posting every breakdown of every game. And then my Twitter and my Instagram, Muskie Central. This will also be posted on there. Thank you guys so much for listening. And let's go, X.
Xavier has upset Arizona.
Everyone, please join me in welcoming the Settler family men's basketball head coach, Richard Pitino.